It is September 11th, 2020. We're here on the rooftop of the property located at 6656 Rockglen Avenue in San Diego, California, 92111. We're going to go ahead and inspect these sewer lines here with a video camera. So we have two bathrooms that are apart from each other. So we're first starting at the bathroom that's essentially closer to the front of the house. It is the hall bathroom, and we have an original 3-inch cast iron vent here. It's in the middle of the house. Got a lot of cobwebs, which is normal. We didn't check the perimeter of the house to see if there's any cleanouts. We always go down the vents anyway because we want to verify if there's any heavy corrosion, cracking, or buildup in some of these old cast iron vents. Okay, so we're now in the horizontal run of the cast iron original sewer main. We are going to pause for 1 second though and clean off the lens of our camera. Okay, so we're now going to push across this main. Appears to be a 3-inch cast iron main. Overall, the pipe is open for the most part. You're always going to get a little bit of scale and deposit, especially on the bottom, but it's mostly circular. A lot of the times the bottom will be flattened out a little bit with some of the buildup that occurs over time. We're basically looking for any areas that are holding water constantly, which are called sags. Obviously looking for any cracks, breaks, separations, root intrusions, anything. Now here you can see we're coming up on a T-junction here. So this is a combo T-junction. So the back side of this T, what we'd call to the right of what you're looking at, should be where the other bathroom picks up and connects into this line where they become one pipe. So we're first going to go ahead and see if this camera can continue all the way down the line by making this turn and continuing. So there we just made the T-junction. Now continuing forward, should be headed towards the front of the house. You can see there's a little bit of mounding right there in the bottom of the pipe again, which is going to be typical, and so that's why there's that little tiny lake or pooling of water that's hanging out, not draining out of the system. Not a big deal, but you can see there's a little bit of mounding here on the left hand side of the pipe, a little bit heavier than what the first section that we looked at here. But as long as we're not finding tons of paper and feces not draining out of the system, those little mounds, again, which are going to be normal with any older cast iron, are not too big of a deal. So you can see here we got a little lake of water, again, a little pooling, and that's occurring right before we come to this turn here. So sometimes the fittings themselves, the way they're laid, and the buildup that occurs on the turns will, same thing, cause that little lake effect of just a little bit of water being held up there. But we're not seeing any debris in the system, which is good. And again, the house is occupied right now and being used. A little bit of mounding you can see right there, also on the left-hand side. Not too bad. You can see a little bit of paper here and there on the top, little stuff snagged in a couple of areas. Sometimes just the way the water flows and tumbles out, if there's suds, it can bring it to the top. Could have been also indicative that they might have had a stoppage at some point in time and that stuff floated to the top of the screen. So you can see the little bit of heavier mounding again here as well throughout. Sometimes they can go ahead and hydrojet these clear and scrape this and pull this out to the city and drag it or push it out. So when it gets a little bit heavier, that's the cleaning method that can be used. They also can use what's called a picote or Renzi chain knocker system. Sometimes they can scrape those with that, but they still usually need to do a hydrojetter in conjunction with that to help move all the debris out with heavy water action. So again, you can see some little bit of more mounding and build up on the bottom of the line here. We're kind of going up and down like a little miniature roller coaster here. The bottom of the pipe is a little bit more flattened out. It's not nice and circular, but again, this is typical with this age of home. but doesn't really need anything yet. It's still completely functional. A little bit heavier mounting. You can see right there on the left and right hand side, you can see that big area and pocket. So this is right before what appears to be the property line clean out. So on the top of the screen right there, kind of opens up. That is a circular opening. That is called the property line clean out. It's typically anywhere from 1 to 5 feet in front of the city sidewalk, and this is where the line was used for test purposes when the house was built, with a plug to fill up the whole system with water. And then they usually in the old days never brought this back up to surface, unfortunately, whereas they have to nowadays. So this is also at this property line where almost every pipe in San Diego County makes a transition to a vertical line, because the line's in the street and that portion of the lateral is much deeper. So right here, this horizontal line is going to end, become vertical, and then retransition back to horizontal again. So we're going to make this turn right here if we can. Sometimes it's a 90, sometimes it's a 45. We'll see how they lay the fitting here. If it's a full 90, a lot of times, unfortunately, unless this property line clean out's been exposed somewhat, we're not going to be able to make this full 90-degree turn when we're out this kind of distance. But we'll see what we've got here. Sometimes we can run water and it can help us get through the area. We're trying to make a turn. There we go. We finally made that little swivel. So we're headed down at about a 45 or 60 degree angle right here. Look to be about just a couple feet, and then you can see we transition right here back to horizontal. So this is typically where now the 3-inch pipe is going to become a 4-inch, and then the cast iron is going to end right at the bottom here when we push through this, and usually become clay unless the city has either dug up and repiped or relined the 4-inch main in the street, which they do help service, but it's still the homeowner's responsibility. So we're going to push through this kind of fast, see if we can make that turn. There we go. So there's the cast iron. And then here's the transition right here into clay. So this is 4-inch pipe right here. And it looks like a clean transition into the 4-inch clay. So there's a hub right there. And the clay comes in short 4-foot sections. So we're going to see a lot of these little hubs. There you go, another one quite often. And because clay pipe is just pushed together with a lubricated, greased hub, roots are really easy for them to grow in. Looks like just a little cobweb, spider web right there. Not a root intrusion. So we'll continue down this clay pipe. It's clear there as well. A little bit of buildup on this clay pipe right here. Typically that would usually be on the top and side walls. A very small root intrusion in the line right there. We can't get an exact detail for sure if those are roots. They're probably some very, very small, tiny roots. We do have a tree across the street, and then a tree to the left and right of this house here, and the roots can grow for hundreds of yards, so it's not uncommon for this to happen. But from what I see right here, it's very minimal. It certainly doesn't require anything right now. And again, because I'm not seeing any little stringy rods, it's hard to say if that's some other type of buildup that occurred from some other blockage or some compound, but 9 times out of 10, that would typically be a small root intrusion, but we just cannot say 100% for sure. But again, as you can see, it's not blocking any portion of the system right now, so it's not a big concern. So we're going to continue down the line, and we will pull back and locate the property line clean out and see if there is one that's we just missed at the front of the house. And we'll at least mark it and note it, so that if the line ever became an issue with anything, that property line cleanout could be brought to surface, so it could be snaked or jetted, and or a chemical treatment could be used to maintain those roots if they'd ever get into the system. So here's the end of the line right here. So there's the city pipe right here, the large pipe in the street that we're dumping into, where all the neighbors then run across as well. So from the rooftop here, we're just barely over 100 feet for where this line ends, this lateral. And so everything essentially clear on the line and looks in good condition, except for that little bit of scale and buildup we see after we teed into the other bathroom and started to run across, and had some pockets that were slightly heavy. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and pause, and we're going to move over to the other bathroom. We're going to leave this camera in the system so we can verify that the T-junction we saw is the same spot where they connect into it together. Okay, so we now have our second camera here. So we're to the back of the house right before this other addition was added. This is the 2-inch vent for the master bathroom. Some cobwebs and debris in here as well, which is always normal. We may have to pull out, clean the lens off, but we'll first go ahead and push down through here and just see. Here's the transition right here. Okay, so we just made that transition. Yeah, we got a little bit of cobwebs still in the front. We're going to go ahead and pause the video and clean that up. Okay, so we're now in the main sewer for this back master bathroom. So this 3-inch cast iron is going to run across. That's the shower stall, a little bit of hair and debris hanging into the line. That's the T-junction where the shower dumps into the line. Now we do also have the kitchen and laundry farther on the left side of the house as you're facing the house. So we started on the far right side of the house with the hall bath. Now we're in the middle back of the house for this bathroom. And then on the left side is where the kitchen and laundry is. Now the kitchen, because of the remodel addition and the way the vent is, we're not going to be able to look at the kitchen line, but we will go down the laundry line, because the kitchen and laundry eventually do become one pipe, and the laundry vent will give us an access into the pipe. So we'll try to get through that into the main where it connects in. Okay, and so here you can see is that T-junction we mentioned, and then in fact there's that little bit of paper and stuff that just sat right there and we saw when we made the turn. So there's our orange-red push rod. So it's only about 26 feet from this vent, which means it's only about 12 feet across horizontally, because it's about 14 vertical distance-wise, where this bathroom connects into the other bathroom and they become one pipe. So we've seen everything in advance of this, so we don't need to look any further. Didn't notice any other exact T's on the upper left, but sometimes they're hidden so well from the cast iron. So we're going to leave this camera in the line as well, and we're going to grab a third camera, which is actually also a smaller camera, to try to get through the laundry line, because it is a smaller 2-inch drain pipe. And so we're going to pause and move over to there. Okay, so now I have our third camera right here over the garage area. Here's our water heater, flue vent, and then here's our laundry 1.5-inch original vent. We can see that there's a newer 2-inch standpipe and trap in the garage. So we'll see if this eventually has one plastic T. Yep, there we go. There's the plastic T. There's some glue marks right there. So they replaced the T in the wall that was either corroded, and in the old days they actually ran an 1.5-inch trap and standpipe, so it's been upgraded to 2-inch to bring that up to code as well, which is good. So here, transitioning into the horizontal, you can see a bunch of buildup right there in the line. So we're not going to try to force the camera down there. I don't know if that is all lint, if it's a coin or not there in the one part of the screen. A lot of times we'll see anything that's left in a pocket gets actually expelled out through the machine sometimes and through the pump, and it can get expelled. It's a little bit rare, but anyway, that could be a screw, it could be any little piece of anything. It even could be just from the work that was done at some point when they cut open the cast iron and something fell in, or it blew through the line, one of the two. So we're not going to go ahead and force our camera through the line right here because it's blocking so much of the pipe already, as you can see. And so if we were to try to continue, that stuff can roll up even further and possibly cause a full blockage. So this line at the bare minimum needs to be snaked. Obviously, again, the unit is occupied, and so everything is obviously draining for the current residents. I'm sure it's all intact, but we cannot continue down this line to try to just verify that it's the next 10 to 12 feet or so it's got to run at most before it dumps into the main is open and clear, at least, with no anything else. So this simply needs to be snaked out either from within the garage area or here from the rooftop, and then at that point, if somebody wants the camera, the line after that's done, you can do that. So we're going to go ahead and pause the video. We're actually going to bring our 1-inch camera over, which has a little bit better colorization than this really tiny camera we're using, and see if we get a better idea of what this object and debris is. So we're going to pause. Okay, we're going to go back down this laundry vent with one of the bigger 1-inch cameras and see if we get a little more crystal clear view, if we can, of that buildup in there, just so we can relay this to both the homeowner as well as the prospective buyer. So here's our big clump of debris, and yeah, it just looks like a big mound of probably lint and other debris. But again, it could be anything that's gotten down in there. So I wouldn't think the line is compromised, but obviously there is just no way for us to verify this 100%. So again, the laundry line needs to be snaked, which then eventually at some point it's going to intersect into the kitchen line. They become one, and so both of them with running water this can be cleaned out relatively simply. Easiest way is just from the rooftop, just as our camera is entering the system. So we're going to go ahead and show this really quick to the homeowner who's here at the property, and then we're going to go ahead and move our camera, the first one, back over to locate the property line clean out and the path of the pipe in the front yard in case they ever want to install clean outs. So we're going to pause the video. Okay, so we're back to the original camera, and we pulled back to this property line cleanout. So again, on the top of the screen is that little opening for the T-junction, and that's right before it makes this vertical downturn at about a 45-degree angle. So we've located this, and we'll show this in the front yard. The pipe is about 32 inches deep, so it's 2 feet 8 inches deep. This T-junction right here is right about a little over barely 4 feet before you get to the sidewalk under the grass, and we've marked it with a flag denoting PLCO, property line cleanout, with the depth 32 inches. We also did put some green paint and that area, the circular spot, and then a few small dots denoting the path of the pipe, so if the homeowner ever needs to do the clean outs, they'll know where that's at. So we're going to go ahead and pause, pull out the camera, and we're actually going to go ahead and bring it down to ground level, and we'll show those markings we did for the clean out and the piping. Okay, so we moved our camera down to ground level here from the rooftop. So here's the front of the house. Here's the sidewalk. You can see our tape measure right there. Here's the flag that we noted. And so we painted also green there. It's right about 52 inches in front of the sidewalk. And then these small little dots, kind of hard to see the green paint dots possibly, but those red discs and the yellow discs denote the path of the sewer pipe. So there's some small green dots in a row there. So again, nothing needs to be done right now, but just for future reference, in case they do, you'd know where you'd have to go ahead and dig this up to expose the line as well as the original buried clean out leading out. So that concludes the recording for this property.